All right. Hey, everybody, and welcome to Crown Council Live. I am your host, Stuart Anderson. We are grateful that you're joining us either live or recorded. We're grateful to connect with you once a week. This is our 1 hour program where we connect with our members, team members, resource partners, and everything that is happening inside the Crown Council. So thank you for joining us. We are here to help you build a culture of success, a culture in your practice that is built by design, not by default. That is our mission. That's our vision. That's our goal. That's why we're meeting with you today. I want to introduce our guest, Cassie Talon. Cassie is our only guest today, coming to us from Curve Dental. We're grateful for Curve, who sponsored Cassie to be with us. We spend an hour together as she lays out what we're calling the Crown Standard. Just an incredible amount of information about team training, about how to treat your patients, how to treat each other, and specific actionable items to make your practice the place that patients talk about, that patients want to be part of, and the service that you provide is truly the thing that they talk about. So we're grateful for this hour that we spend together, grateful for Curve, who set it up for us, and thankful for each of you for being part of this incredible community as we raise the standards of dental care together. So enjoy this Crown Council Live. Thanks for joining us. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome. This is Stuart Anderson with Crown Council. Cassie Talon. Hi, Cassie.
I
Great to have you with us. We are grateful to spend an hour. I think we're going to spend an hour, Cassie. I don't know. I mean, we have been chatting for 20 minutes, all about teams. We've been talking about service. We've been talking about your most valuable asset, the people that you work with. It's very fun. So Cassie is joining us, the founder of Fractional Match. Cassie, I spent the morning on your website. You have had a life in dentistry. This
yeah.
is pretty cool. I hope you talk about it a little bit. But Cassie is an absolute just everything that she does helps practices rethink the way that teams connect, whether they connect with patients, each other, even the community, which we just talked about a minute ago. But she is an expert in understanding in what makes teams better, what makes them thrive, breaking down how leaders can approach team developing, hiring, and just a more intentional way to serve each other and the community, which is what we're all about. Yes, yes, yes. So it's really fun to be with you. I'm excited for the next. We've had this in like we met a month ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you put together some awesome curriculum for us today. I'm excited about. We're grateful to have you with us. Our goal today is to give you some tools, some actionable things that you can implement right away with your team to build a culture of success in your practice, which is what we're all about. So, hi, Cassie. That was a long
Hi.
introduction. Sorry if
Hi.
that was
That's
long-winded
great.
there.
No,
Okay.
I'm so glad to join you. And the origination of all of this, I love that you said the years in dental was my watching my father and watching him as a dentist say to the patient, if at any point when I'm working on that one tooth in your mouth, you feel like I've forgotten the rest of the body that is connected to that one tooth and who you are, I want you to let me know. And he was a prime example for me in my life of what it meant to elevate customer service chairside. And what was funny is even though I didn't go into dentistry as a profession in the beginning, I landed there eventually. And the hospitality piece of my past with Hilton and Marriott and others brought me to this place of kind of synergy with my dad's methodology, great leaders in our industry that I've been able to watch and observe, and the hospitality background I had to say, like, let's bring something a little different to the table. So right now what I would challenge is that, what doctors seem to forget sometimes when they're looking at those Google reviews. And in fact, you could use Chat GPT tomorrow to say, like, what does the internet say about me and my business? And what it would show almost universally is nobody really comments on your clinical care. They comment on the administrative aspects of your practice. There was billing inaccuracies. I wasn't greeted when I came in. The phone wasn't answered for me when I had a question. And what stinks about that for you as a clinician is that it's not a clinical failure. It is something that is a hospitality failure at its core. And so I just have a deep desire in my heart to come in alongside dentists and say, as clinicians, you have worked hard to get to this stage in your career. You provide quality care, outstanding treatment plans, and this hospitality missing component is oftentimes what is causing your practice to face a decline or, a lack of new patients walking in the door because of what is being said about your practice from a hospitality failure and administrative failure. So 63% of patients right now on a recent study that was just done through the ADA are leaving a dental practice because they were not treated with quality of care. And they define quality of care related to all administrative functions, not the doctor. So if we really take that and break that apart, it means that we don't normally even know what's happening until that patient walks in the door when we're working on the clinical side. And many times when I talk to the doctor, I will say, have you ever sat in your lobby as a patient? Have you ever called in and had your wife schedule as a patient? And they'll say, no, I've never done that before. And I would say, step one, go do those things. So while I tell you what we're about to cover today, I want to share a quick story of where I really started to recognize just how important it was to make a shift. I had a clinic where their reviews spoke, almost all of them spoke of just a nervousness about the visit, a noisiness about the office, and things felt haphazard. Haphazard was a word that was used frequently. So I made the decision to go in as a secret shopper for that office and sit and be present. And then I invited someone else to do the same with me. And the takeaway was so incredible to me. They had this wonderful girl at the front desk who was just a go-getter, but she had installed 4 shredders at the front desk because she was all about security and ensuring there was no paperwork left behind with the patient's information.
I'm nervous for this.
Yeah. And so as I sat there, it was shred, 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 and all 4 kind of humming to the same tune. Well, I'm not sure if you've ever heard 4 shredders simultaneously, but it sounds a lot like a drill. And then when you combine that with drills in the back, you just sat at the front and you were like, oh my gosh, I'm getting ready to go back and have dentistry done inside my mouth, and they're shredding. And so the outcome was for me, even right down to the sound, the environment, the hospitality feel when they walk in the front door, we become so task oriented. That girl, I nicknamed her the shredder, but the shredder of the front desk, I told her, like, we got to get rid of these and move them away from the desk, because while it's something being checked off your list, it's creating an environment that's not positive for the patient. And what's interesting about that is we went back and we surveyed almost 4 months later at that same clinic, and all of those reviews about the haphazard energy of what they felt when they were there disappeared, because we put in a fountain, we turned up the music, we made a more soft experience when they walked in the door, and now suddenly they have positive things to say. Never forget that the minute that patient walks in the door is the opportunity to win them over. It's not when they sit back in the chair and open up their mouth to receive care. So we're going to cover today why the patient leaves, the identity shift. I'm going to share with you some 5 touch points that are very valuable, a 30-second rule, the LEAP framework that I use when I go in and I train teams, and also just kind of banding with you in this 30-day commitment, because what's happening now almost universally is we're so fixated on these KPIs and where we need to be with our metrics financially that we've forgotten that the soft touch points along the way are necessary to move things forward. So first, let's talk about why patients leave and why it is never dentistry. And I mean never. Like, I rarely, under 1% of the time, see that it is associated with poor standard of care when it comes to the doctor providing treatment. So dentistry has a bigger opportunity really than any other hospitality brand, because we just don't get it right enough. And I'm going to start by giving you one word that I hope you add to your vocabulary right away, which is lagniappe. It actually, if you wanted to Google it, is spelled login-nappe. Like, that is what it looks like, but it is lagniappe. And lagniappe is a New Orleans word. And that word means to give a little something extra. So those free beignets at the end of your meal, that hospitality that comes when you travel to New Orleans for a little something more, I integrate that into the practice, and we've lost sight of that. We've cut corners and said, no more water when they check in, no lip balm at the end of the visit when their mouth is dry, no blanket when they're, with us because we had to pay a laundry fee for that. What we forget is that those fees we are able to charge to the patient have a direct correlation to the way they feel, the way the senses are elevated, and the way they experience us as a whole. So the Ritz-Carlton, they train every employee to anticipate the needs before they're expressed. Every touch point is designed to feel effortless and personal. I will add to this deck to share with you, at Disney, there is one phrase that no Disney employee is ever allowed to say, and that is, I don't know. And they've trained them in that, because what we need to do at our very core is to really just educate our team about what it means to reinstate hospitality and always be in pursuit of the answer. When I worked in the hotel industry for a long period of time, I can remember one of the first engagements I had directly with a consumer, a guest. And I went back to senior leadership and I said, man, what I observed in that workflow, they didn't see it right. That's not what happened. And the head of the company said to me, Cassie, every consumer, every guest's perception is your reality, whether it's really what occurred or not. And forever and a day, that changed my perspective, because I had a recognition of the fact that what they perceive, even though it may not be accurate of what actually takes place, that is our reality. Right. So fine dining, they understand when you go that the pace, the exit, every moment has significance. Now, even in fine dining, I see where they introduce themselves to me, and they actually will tell me a little bit about themselves as a server on a card. They have a card that says, I have 3 kids and this is why I have this job today. And I can't wait to serve you. Instituting that back into our language in dental is what's really critically important. And if you were to think back to dentistry even 10 years ago, we did those soft introductions. We knew when the family vacation was. We knew when the patient was getting ready to celebrate something special, and we recognized them for that. Those soft touch points are what keep us engaged as consumers. And in fact, I would say, as you look at this slide, think back over the last month of the instances when you had something that was a wow hospitality experience. I know you can tell me at least one. What's crazy about that is, if you were to think back even 20 years ago, it happened so frequently, it was every day. You had a high-level hospitality experience. Now, because it's not the norm, it stands out. And in fact, it invites you to become a long-term consumer or patient in those establishments, because it is so rare to find. In fact, I kind of almost do like a step back when someone addresses me properly when I walk into a business, because I'm like, wow, this doesn't exist anymore, and you have it. Way to go. So my goal is that it no longer is absent, and that it becomes the norm again. And so really, understanding that every patient is arriving with a level of anxiety. They're arriving with all of these fears of what what could happen next. And so patients do not leave the clinic because of what you did to their teeth. They leave because of how you made them feel while you were doing it. And that is the difference that you need to take note of today. So as we talk about feelings and what that patient actually felt when they were with you, it means that we eliminated the things that made them feel human. And so one of the things I will talk to you about first in this identity shift is, and Stu, this is a really good takeaway for them, is for the doctors, is right now you have turned on some form of automation inside of your clinic for recare, for treatment plans, or if they're due to come back in, and confirmations even. And what we did is we were so excited to have this feature to turn on, because it meant one less phone call, one less human error rate, that we turned on systems that are deeply automated and robotic. So I don't know about you, but when my dentist texts me that I need to come in for a cleaning, the message says, our records indicate you are due. I mean, that's not anybody that
That's not how you speak. That's not how you talk.
Correct. I mean, do you speak to anyone in your life that way? Like, our records indicate that we haven't spoken via text in a while. It's great to connect with you again. Or, we send out a patient statement via text and it said, our records show a pending balance and you still owe this, right?
Hmm.
I love to come in and have an identity shift with the language that we're using. And first and foremost, calling them by name. Hi, Cassie, we cannot wait to care for you again. It looks like you haven't been in a little while, and we care about the inflammation that can happen inside of your mouth. Click here to schedule a quick visit with us where we can keep you whole and healthy. Period. When we send out a statement, one of the funnest things I love to do, and here's just a little gold nugget. Number one, an email goes out after the EOB pays to actually say what that remaining patient balance is. It's just informative. It tells the patient, hey, listen, great news, your insurance paid this, but there is still a little bit left over that's your responsibility. Now I send a text and it says, great news, our office has a way for you to pay your bill conveniently online. We still show a small remaining balance and your insurance paid this. Please click here to pay your invoice. One of the number one clogs of the phone system today is billing confusion. And I have practices all the time that will say to me, like, we just can't handle the volume of calls. And I'm like, right, because 50% of them are correlating to billing issues that could be resolved in the language you use with the statement you send. And so if we would fix those things at our core, it would eliminate the level of calls coming in. So let's talk about the identity shift now that you have a couple takeaways to no longer be automated in your messaging. We want to go from gatekeeper to guide. And Stu, I built this with this Crown standard
I
idea
love it. Yeah.
specifically for you, because this is what you're all about. And in fact, when I meet dentists that tell me they're part of Crown Council, like I already put them at a different caliber and level than any other dentist because they're just quality people. So the two identities that we're faced with today, the gatekeepers that are reactive, they're calendar managers, they're filling the schedule. They close the call when the questions are answered. They're like, okay, great. And they hang up the phone
Right.
before they've
Yeah.
even really processed things with the patient. And in fact, I would say in that gatekeeper mode, what I hear the most is the call comes in and the patient needs to cancel, right? They can't make it to the visit. And the person on the other end, who's the gatekeeper, says, no problem, we'll get that canceled. Do you want to reschedule? And I'm like, no. Let's go ahead and reappoint. Let's be so hospitable that we cannot wait to make sure that they still get back in for quality of care. So what I like to do is transitioning them into the guide versus the gatekeeper and say, we're ready to serve before that call comes in. And I have something called mining the gold of the call to say when that patient calls in, even if they're just calling in to say, what time is my appointment tomorrow? I am looking at if they're due for recare and if there's an opening on the schedule ahead of their crown. Do they have a pending balance that needs to be resolved before they come in? Do I need to offer them additional treatment that's inside of their plan that they haven't taken advantage of yet? And just in a hospitable way saying, you know, Mr. Smith, I'm so glad you called. It does look like we still have that $15 balance from the last time that you were here. We will need to take care of that when you come in, and I don't want any surprises for you. It's because your insurance paid a little bit less than it needed to. Great. Now, guess what? I don't have to have soft skill training on de-escalation because Mr. Smith knows when he comes in tomorrow, he knows what's expected of him. And we also have done our due diligence to welcome him properly into the clinic. We're a patient advocate. I've changed the names in the clinics I work with to say patient care coordinators, names that are reflective of what we truly are supposed to do within our administrative areas and reinforce that. So when I say patient care coordinator, you'll hear me a little later on talk about this. I like to even change the phone script to say, hi, this is Cassie. How can I care for you today? The care component of being added into the framework allows the patient then to put out reviews that say, I can't believe how much they cared about me. Right, because we told you that we did. So really, it's about building those relationships that drive loyalty. That means a connection code at the point of handoff of every single visit when they're checking out. We've become so methodical in the checkout of the visit that we move right into this mode of, I have Sally with me and she was here today for a crown and she's ready to go, to, hey, I have Sally with me today. She's headed to go see her grandbabies in Florida and we just took care of a crown for her. Hear the difference? Now then, when I'm talking about billing, it's been softened by the fact that Sally was introduced to me as a person instead of a number. So really, that's the difference of what we do in terms of our language that makes really all of that, the changes happen at the point of sale, at the point of conversation of treatment that needs to come. And so the questions that every patient is asking, do these people care about me? Or is this just about my appointment? Is it about the money? Is my time going to be respected? This is a big one, especially at a senior level. A DSO will implement something like, we have a 10 minutes policy or we
Right.
cancel the visit.
Right.
You're out. But yet the doctor consecutively runs 30 to 45 minutes behind. It goes away, right? So if you can't match, and it can't be a win-win, you can't say you be here on time or else, when you consecutively run 30 to 45 minutes behind. The patient is never going to be responsive positively to that because you didn't respect their time. Therefore, they can't respect yours. So what I like to do is institute some changes in the office to help you run on time first, making sure that you are running on time, and then implement that policy of if you're past 10 minutes, we have to reschedule. Am I going to be judged or pressured? This last one is a big one. I want to pause on this for just a moment. I had an incredible conversation with Dr. Eric Roman not that long ago, and we talked about the transition that's happened with patients where they used to listen to the doctor as like the trusted voice. The dentist was the trusted voice. Whatever you tell me I need to do, I'm here to do it. And now that patient has used AI among many other tools to determine what they believe is wrong inside of their mouth. So they are coming in with a treatment plan in their head, more than likely. Well, I looked this up and it looks like I can use some clove oil to get rid of that infection in my mouth because, Claude told me that's all that's wrong. And I'm like,
thanks, Claude.
not. But the shift, the paradigm shift is when you move to the language that feels like it's more of an interaction together. Like, let's talk about the goals that you have for your mouth and where you're headed and what we can do to help you with that. Instead of, here's your treatment plan, here's what you need to do. And I like to go as far back to the intake form because right now we ask about health history and we don't ask about dental history. So if we knew the history of the patient's dental experiences and even their family, I like to say any family history of tooth loss or things you're concerned about, that can be part of the conversation. Hey, I noticed you talked about Uncle Jim who had dentures and you're scared you're headed that direction. Let's talk together about the best plan so that you can keep the teeth you have and not head to that same path as Uncle Jim did, right? Because they told us it in the very beginning, and that can really overcome the judgment and be a very valuable piece of engagement. So there are 5 touch points of where the hospitality can either shine or fall flat. And so as I share these, I want to start by saying that first point of contact is everything. And Stu, we weren't recording yet for this call, but to share this story with you again of when that call happens to the office, the answering of it matters so significantly. And when the doctor calls me and they're asking, why aren't my calls being answered? I'm going to tell you a quick story of a doctor that brought me in with the intentionality of fixing that first point of contact, only for me to find out because a team member was willing to privately share that the ringer was turned off at the front desk so that they could watch TikTok. And what a hard moment that was for the doctor to have realization that here he's hired a consultant to better answer the phones for the first point of contact, when really all he needed to do is turn his ringer on. So step 1, start there.
Yikes.
But really it's the first point of contact that welcomes them in. How can I care for you? We've changed the language over the years to things like, how can I assist you? Or this is Cassie and this is such and such clinic. And then nothing, a silence, waiting for them to prompt something that follows. Let's tell them what we intend to do for them. Let's share that in language that's built with hospitality. Then as the patient arrives, I want to say that the very best thing you can do with a new patient, because often the desk is lower than the patient coming in, so they're looking down to us. I like for the team member, before they begin to do data entry into the system or prepare an iPad for that new patient, to stand up, shake their hand, and greet them. When you meet someone for the first time and you are being introduced to that person even, do you just look at them or sit down and say good to meet you? You don't. You stand there, you shake their hand, you tell them it's nice to meet them. What if you did that? What if you stood up for that 1 second? Not number one, it's great for your legs and exercise because you're sitting all day. So take as an added bonus for your health. But you know what? That pause of standing up to greet the patient means that you can't be task oriented in that 1 minute or less. It means that you are about the person. And so stand up at the point of arrival, make eye contact, tell them that you're glad that they're there and that you look forward to being able to care for them. I even like for my front desk to have enough knowledge about their doctor that whoever that patient is seeing that day, in that introduction, they're doing a pre-introduction of you as the doctor to say, Mr. Smith, it is so nice to meet you. Dr. Nick is an incredible doctor, and I am so glad that that's who you're going to be able to see today.
Nice. Yeah. Great.
So they don't know that he's a great doctor, but you get to tell them that he is, so that by the time the doctor comes into the room, I like for at least 3 touch points to recognize that fact about your doctor, and trust begins to be built for the receiving of the treatment. Then once they're in the chair, one of the worst things that I see that's happening today, because again, we're task oriented about what needs to happen next, is this is where the clinical care needs to meet human care. They sit the patient in the chair, and then the computer is behind the chair, and they walk behind the chair and begin calling out things from either the form or what's about to happen in the visit. And I'm like, so once the patient is in the room, you begin talking to the back of their head. So take a colleague and begin talking to one another to the back of each other's head. You can't see their face, and have them tell you something really important. Does it have the same significance to you? It doesn't. So what I tell them is 2 things. 1, keep the patient upright. Don't sit them back and then begin critical conversation about the visit. And 2, sit down in the chair and roll forward. Have direct eye contact, same level. Keep the chair lower. Don't raise them up to the roof in that chair, and then begin the conversation with the back of their head and say to them exactly what that visit is about for today. I had an office that was struggling with this tremendously. And by the time they brought me into the office, what I actually got to witness that day was tragic. They did not sit down and discuss with the patient what the visit was about. In fact, they were already set up and ready to go, leaned the patient back and extracted the wrong tooth.
Oh, no.
And I've only seen this a couple times in my career. But what I said to them after this occurred, which this patient was like, genuinely like gracious about it all. I don't know how or why, but they just were. But I said, do you realize all of this was avoidable if the reason for the visit would have been discussed from the time that they walked into the chair, walked in and sat down in the chair. And ironically, the patients had similar names, so it just was glossed over and not covered. But I really like for there to be an introductory piece. I even like to see Casey Cloud or other videos utilized as an introduction to that. So if the patient is coming in for a crown and core buildup, quickly have the video ready on the iPad and just say, Mr. Smith, let me just show you a little bit about what's getting ready to happen today. The doctor's going to come in and he's going to numb that area first. And then this is a little bit about what that treatment looks like. I don't want you to be nervous. Our patients, most of them experience little to no pain at all, even after. Raise a hand if you're feeling anything during the treatment so that we can numb you a little more and ensure that you're happy and comfortable in the setting. Those are the things that make a difference, and we don't ever say it. And we're so caught up in the tasks. So moving that step forward in a direction that connects to the patient is so critical. And then that close at checkout, you heard me share it. It's the handoff that matters, and the way we recognize them with a human touch. Talk about their life. Ask them one question. I don't care if it's that they had on a handmade sweater from their granddaughter. Make it something of value that makes them connected to the office. You are not running a Profimil. You are not running a restorative care Jiffy Lube. This is something where you have the opportunity to make a true difference for the patient, to engage with you and keep them in the office. So just the human touch matters. So no patient crosses a transition point without feeling known by the next person. That's the piece I want to leave you with. So when they go to the back, what I just said about Dr. Nick at the front desk and that handoff to the chair, that RDA or RDH says, you know what, you're getting ready to see Dr. Nick. And I just want you to know he is an incredible dentist. He was formerly in the military and has transitioned to our office about 10 years ago, but we have just seen some amazing life-changing work that Dr. Nick has done. You are going to love him. Guess what? Because we've been telling the patient they're going to love them. Guess what happens? Usually they love him. And it changes that whole dynamic. Many times I see today where the doctor is not even introduced. The doctor just walks in to conduct the exam, and no one even knows like about that. The doctor should
Right.
never even have to say his name when he walks in the room. That team member that is in the room for treatment does the introduction always. It
Right.
is the best way for the patient to feel recognized and seen. And again, you would never do that in your personal life. When you walk into a room and someone's standing beside you that doesn't know your friend, you would always introduce them as a courteous piece. So that first point of contact, it's all about the patient experience that begins long before they sit in the chair. That first call, the welcoming aspects, every inbound call is answered by someone who is ready to serve. You're going to hear me say this a lot, Stu, but when it comes to AI being integrated into your phone system, I am very big on categorically placing the non-revenue generating tactical administrative calls with the AI agent. Good deal, do it. But never is the AI agent implemented for your current standard of care with a patient that is new, calling about treatment, or ready to book a general pro fee or SRP. Like, it just doesn't happen. And I see it being turned on all the time where they're like, no, we'll just let everybody talk to the AI agent. I'm not sure about you, but have you ever been on one of those calls where the automated voice does not ever understand you or recognize
Oh,
you?
I love it. It's my
And
favorite
you're
thing.
pushing zero and going,
Please.
operator, or like human. That's
Yep.
how people feel when they're calling your clinic. And if we're all about hospitality, AI can be a very valuable resource in some regards. Don't turn it on for that first engagement with them, especially not a new patient. And I have doctors that are like, we really can't handle the new patient intake. There's just so much to it. We're going to let the AI agent do all of those tasks. I'm like, wow, that is the worst thing you could possibly do to make them feel like a number. So the arrival is the next piece of that matters. Once they've had the call, how can I care for you? Really, again, reinstituting that idea of stand up, greet them, welcome them, tell them that you're glad they're there, and mention your doctor. The handoff, again, talking about what that looks like in the transition and how that patient is brought back. Please, please do not open the door to the back of your office and someone shout, Jen, like, who does that? Like, literally, I see that all the time. Or I have offices that were worried about HIPAA, so they gave the patient a number and they hand them the number at check-in and they're like, 001. I'm like, are we at the DMV? Like, I don't know about you, but if I were to survey every American today, how would say that they like the DMV? I'm going to tell you, it's probably 100% say zero happiness with the DMV. So why are we doing that in our clinics? We have a picture that we can take of the patient before they come back. Take the photo, walk out to the patient. Don't prop open the door and scream their name like you're in a barn. Go up to the patient and say, are you Mr. Smith? Hi, my name is Cassie. It is so good to meet you, and I'm looking forward to caring for you today, right this way. Like, it's 3 more steps. Pause and do this. The chair side interaction, again, do not talk to the back of the head. They're in a vulnerable position the minute you sit them down in the chair. Not to mention, please, 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 just take one extra bib and cover up the instruments on your tray when they walk in. I see over and over again where like they use the little stand for the injections of the carpules of numbing with the syringe tip. And it's like right there, sticking right up on the tray. And I'm like, nothing says welcome like a clearly visible pair of forceps and a needle. Like, I suddenly feel like I'm at home. So what I would challenge you is just cover that up. Just have that covered. It takes one extra bib from the patient over it to have that done. And sitting down and making that interaction calm and focused. Many times DAs and RDAs are so quick to move on to the task list. You kind of carry that over into the chair side visit, like where they're already just popping on to the next checklist item. Slow down, greet the patient, recognize that they're nervous, also recognize that they likely took vacation days to come in and see you today. It changes the dynamics. They could be on the beach and instead they're sitting in your dental chair. So what are you going to do to make it feel a little bit more like a relaxing visit for them instead of something that they just had to do? So the 30-second rule is the next piece of this that I want to cover, and really the empathy language that begins to earn trust. You'll hear me say this in the other series, but frequently in dental, we use very kind of like finite or final wording, like the tooth is decayed, so you're going to need filling. No, the tooth is decaying. And if this continues to progress, these are the outcomes for you. Language that allows the patient to know that you're with them in the journey of their care and maintaining the standard of the care is critical. And I also just want to say before I share this rule with the team, when I'm implementing any of these elements with my team, I like the teams that I work with, I like them to know two things. One, that we're doing this because it's about protecting the assets of the practice, the people that walk in the door, the team that's there, and protecting the overall practice and what that outward response is that people see. Because usually the Google reviews are not an indicator or a reflection of the heart. And I say that all the time. If you were to look at the Google reviews and say, does this define me as a person and who I am? And they're complete opposites. I go in and I see the sweetheart team that loves the patient. And then the Google review basically, paints the picture of you that they have a dartboard in their garage with your face on it. These are not the same people, right? So if we want people to see the version of you that is deeply caring and protecting the assets of your people, we have to change the language for them to know who you truly are. So the 5-second slowdown looks like this. I challenge you to take one full breath before you say everything to the patient. That means if you have just rushed to set up that tray and wipe down the chair from the last patient, just go out in the hallway, 1 second, deep breath. Then I want you to release whatever happened. That means if the door opened into the clinic today and you just left behind a crying baby and, spilt milk in the front seat, or your husband was mad at you because you didn't do something that he asked you to do, whatever it is, I don't care. The minute the door opens to wherever that is, where you're going to be patient facing, I want you to make the decision to leave it behind, because the outward reviews of you are not reflective of the heart that you have. And you want that to change, because it's your legacy, right? It's what people will remember you by. And I don't know about you, but I don't want Google reviews out there about me that show me and paint me in the picture of being this terrible human when I've spent my whole life trying to care for people and been in healthcare. So you have to leave at the door anything that might separate people from knowing your true heart, and then make eye contact. We think that that's, such a simple statement, but it's actually really hard when you're in a task-oriented environment. So remembering, stand up, make the eye contact, have the conversation, smile. We work in a dental clinic, smile, and use the patient's name. Sounds pretty simple, but I'm here to tell you it's forgotten. I even laminate this and put it at the desk for my teams. If the doctor is putting together a task list, I will add these into the task list, like in between things. Perfect, do this, now breathe. Perfect, do this, now smile. Because that 5 seconds changes everything, and it resets your brain every time you're interacting. I also like taking this 5-second slowdown and incorporating it in your morning huddle as a piece of reminders, and circulating every day, someone sharing the wow factor of the day before. We never highlight enough the life-changing action of the dentistry we do. We're like, okay, Crown's coming in at 3 and it's going to produce this. And then we've got this and it's going to produce this. What about who you cared for yesterday? So John came in and we saw him yesterday. And do you know he is going to have a steak for the first time tonight in like 3 years? Do you know that Mr. Smith, he got that front tooth fixed and his wife walked in and she kissed him because she's never seen him looking that good? We don't tell that story. So tell that story in huddle. Bring back to life why we do dentistry. It's part of the hospitality. And honestly, it's where I really caught my fire to do it myself, is I had the chance to help a plumber who had lost his full set of dentures, receive dentures for free at a clinic, and his entire life changed. He got married. He reconnected with an estranged daughter. He got a better job because he had new teeth. He literally was working without teeth. So please remember in that 5-second slowdown that this isn't just about the production. It's about the preservation of the assets, the outcomes of the people, and why we do what we do. So language that really closes a patient up versus language that will open them up. What is your date of birth? That's sometimes the first thing that I hear people say when they walk into a clinic. Hi, I'm checking in for my visit. And I've actually seen this. Hi, I'm checking in for my visit. No patients in the lobby. The schedule only has one patient. the 9 o'clock hour. So it's probably pretty logical that we know who's checking in. Just
Mhm.
saying. And still, Sally at the front desk goes, so date of birth? Like, I mean, that's all the patient has said. Like, I'm here to check in. And the very next statement is date of birth. Well, I mean, my first statement back would be, no, that's not my name. My name is Cassie. Good to meet you. But thank you for coming in. It's our pleasure to get to care for you today. Let me pull up your information. Oof, sounds a lot different, doesn't it?
Mhm. Mhm.
What do you need? I
What do
have
you need?
actually heard calls answered that way. The call is answered with their name and the office, and then the patient rattles a little something. So what exactly is it you need? No. How can I care for you today? How can I help you with that? Even reinforcing once the patient says something, I heard you say this. Is that what you're thinking as well? That is our policy.
Mm.
Doctors have worked very hard to say what that is our policy, right? Especially when it comes to things like billing and submission to insurance. And time again, I will hear the practice say something related to, this is our policy about submitting insurance. Well, that's between them and their insurance, and that's our policy. And I'm like, true,
Mhm.
but the patient doesn't have strong dental IQ and they handed you the card. So what do they think? They think you're responsible for the outcome of their insurance. What I love to add to that, that's our policy when it comes to insurance. Mr. Smith, it is our honor to file insurance on your behalf.
Mhm.
What I would love for you to know is that we cannot always see the full picture of what your insurance actually covers. So today we're providing you with an estimate for that care. You may see a small bill that comes or follows because of the fact that, as it is our honor to file on your behalf, we don't always know the outcome because it is between you and your insurance carrier. See how that sounds different? So our
Mhm.
policy is this is between you and your insurance. I don't know about you, but like it just doesn't work that way. So you will have to call back. I have actually had a couple instances of this where they will tell the patient to call back at a different time.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
so that is not something ever that is left in the hands of the patient to be responsible for. We do take a message and we will get this handled for you. It's not, I don't know, or that person's not here, call back. It's, please leave that with me and it will be my pleasure to find out for you who would be the right person to be designated to handle that. Always responsibility of the team instead of you will have to call back.
Right.
Relax. This will only take a second. I hear that frequently. Just relax. Just sit back. This will only take a second. We just need to go in and do one more bite check. No, I'm going to walk you through everything. And so what we're doing now is, or raise your hand at any time if you have any concerns or questions. All are a piece of this, right? Making sure that the patient has full awareness as things are happening. And I like also giving them that control to understand that even though you're working inside their mouth, they still have the ability to communicate with you. A lot of doctors I know try to talk to the patient while the mouth is open, and they do a pretty good job of understanding yeses and nos. And I still am not sure how they can do that. So the phone greeting that changes the call, really it is the how can I care for you? I hear assist frequently. You can use another word, but this for me is the game changer in dental because it really does kind of regulate the conversation to a softer level. I've had patients call in very irate, and the shifting of the language when the patient calls in really can mitigate that that elevation or escalation of the call just in the way that we sound when we answer the phone. So that means, thank you for calling. How can I care for you? What is your insurance? It's an honor to submit insurance on your behalf. To say when someone wants to speak with the doctor, well, she's with a patient or he's with a patient. They don't need to know any of that. So right now, Dr. Nick is caring for another patient, but how can I help you? Is there something I might be able to answer for you? Focusing on those things. So it's time for us to change both the patient's texting and email, and really changing it from transactional language that doesn't feel specific to the patient to something that feels like a true text from you. So right now, the greatest thing we're seeing, Stu, in practices is that confirmations and patients confirming their appointment has fallen to an all-time low. And everyone's trying to figure out, is that the cadence? Do we take a deposit? Is that how we get them to confirm? And I'm here to tell you, I think it's the language. If I know that it's an automated bot that has sent me the message to confirm my visit, I really don't care, because if I were to scroll through my phone, I probably have 50 more confirmation messages that look identical. Like you could do it right now. They all
Right.
look the same, right?
Right.
Cassie, visit this date, click see, confirm. Okay, I mean, like, it doesn't matter. Like, no human is touching that. So if I say yes or no, does it matter? The difference is when I start with a warm greeting and I tell them about, respecting of their time and the doctor's time, and we allow them to engage differently. So customized care built for you. It is our honor to care for you. Language being woven into the very framework of even your confirmations makes the patient feel that they are getting a human touch instead of an automated touch. How are
Yeah.
we doing on time, by the way, Stu? Are we
We're
okay?
great. No,
Okay,
I was
great.
just going to chime in. My dental office always puts the name of the person that is texting me. So she'll always say, "Hey,
Love that.
hey, Stuart, it's Paula. I'm texting you."
Yeah,
And that to me, I'm like, "Oh, I'm talking to Paula." Like
correct.
it's so good to just add that little touch in there.
Yeah, and isn't it funny? You feel inclined to respond because
Hmm.
Paula has written you and you don't want to leave Paula behind. But when it's just an automated message, I don't feel any commitment to respond.
Me neither.
I
Yeah.
love that you just shared that. That is exactly what I like to see happen. And so frequently we've turned on this set it and forget it mode within our messaging that is missed. And to just give one more additional piece to that, when the patient hasn't been in for some time for recare, if you could just do one thing tomorrow that would boost your business, I would challenge you to go in and take every patient that is 3 months or greater overdue for recare and send them a specific message. It could even be a video from you around the effects of periodontal disease, what it looks like, the advancements of it inside the mouth, and how much you don't want them to have those inflammation points inside their mouth. I see a huge return on patients coming back in because they're like, yeah, every time I do floss, it is bleeding. I
Hmm.
kind of forgotten I needed to get back into the dentist. Tell them why they need to come back in. Not that they're just due for recare. Tell them why. And that really does make a difference, especially even in an email that's giving them understanding, a clear understanding of what periodontal disease looks like, the signs and symptoms, and why that recare visit is so valuable. I promise it will refill your hygiene
Great
department.
advice. Yeah.
Yeah. So the trust triangle is really about that reliability, the empathy, and the competence all being combined together to create patient trust. The best patient in your chair is usually the one that was a direct referral from another patient because they already told them all about their visit, how great their crown is, how great their veneers are. And usually when that new patient comes in, they're already kind of prepped and ready to receive you as a great doctor. The problem is right now is the reliability that's missing, even when they make the visit. Maybe your office has a system where they reschedule appointments frequently because the doctor changes days, or the system, they need to move somebody over to accommodate a larger treatment plan. How many times are your patients rescheduled? If there's not reliability in the scheduling and really just a holding firm to both the respecting of their time and yours, you can't get to the point of patient trust. Like, it will never be established because they see you as fragmented. Empathy and really engaging with them to know who they are has a huge impact on getting them in. Even if you're calling to follow up on treatment, I tell the team member that is following up on treatment, go in and pull the area or location of the treatment that hasn't been completed, and definitely look to see if they were in pain before. Maybe they even had a temporary crown, and say, hi, Julia, we were just calling. I noticed that you had some difficulty on the upper left. Is that area still hurting you? Because we certainly would like to get you back in. Huh. Now you actually are talking to me about what I'm feeling instead of, we show that you're due for a crown on this tooth. I'm engaging them with empathy. And then competence. One of the greatest things I see missing in the clinic today that can be automated, and this is a great pause and segue into an idea with Curve that I utilize. So Curve Dental, who sponsored this course today, one of the things that I use for added competence is it has the ability for me to create basically what are explosion codes for scheduling the visit. So intake types with specific code usage right when it's scheduled, and it drops down and it puts it all into the system. We even use explosion codes, which are called quick buttons, for the doctor to plan out treatment. Where the competence failure happens the most today that equates to a reduced patient trust is I have Sally at the desk and she says, oh, so you're a new patient? Perfect. So we're scheduling you for a comp exam. Hey, Judy, what's in the comp exam? Is that CDC code? And they say it. And I'm like, okay, number one, the patient does not know what a comp exam is. Do not say comp exam. Number two, do not look to Judy and yell from across the room which codes to add to the visit. This is part of your competence. And I'm telling you, whoever is on that call with you is like, okay, they're a little squirrely. They do not know how to schedule me. I wonder if this is a good dentist.
Oh my goodness.
So this exists and it's real today, and it just has to end. We have to do a better job with competency, even around scheduling. So no shout outs during the call. And by all means, do not tell them, like I literally have heard on the calls, so you're calling to schedule a comp exam? Like, I don't know what a comp exam is. I'm a patient. You just welcome them as a new patient. So here's the LEAP framework that we'll cover. And this is really, the de-escalation path, how to really handle things that are coming in. And what I would challenge you to do is go back to your clinic and talk to the team about what are the things that are escalated or heavy within the week that you don't want to carry any longer. They will come back to you with like their top 5 of the things that are bothering them today. And often out of the top 5, many of them can be completely eliminated, like changing your billing language and actually sharing the EOB that paid on the claim before you go after collecting more money. And billing really is our number one issue today that I see the greatest problem with. So de-escalation becomes a critical piece of that. So here's my 4-step structured response that I want to leave you with to be thinking about. It's crazy that in today's age that we have to say this, but you really do have to listen. You can't be prepared to respond with what you think they know. I also would say if this is a billing question, there is something very valuable in saying, you know what, Mrs. Jones, please allow me to investigate this and return your call once I have clarity on this for you. There is nothing wrong with doing that. I see offices all the time where somebody's like, well, you know what? Let's just go ahead and get your insurance on a 3-way call with us, and we will just sit here all together and figure it out. Meanwhile, every new patient can't check in, the doctor can't check out, and you're sitting on the 3-way call in the middle of the day trying to answer an insurance question. That's not the way I would de-escalate. I would say, let me investigate and let me come back to you. Don't be so quick to be the fixer, but listen first and gather information. I would acknowledge, even what they're saying, even if it's wrong. Well, that makes sense. Let me do a little bit of a deep dive on that for you and come back. Ask a question of them if something else happens. Like, for instance, the patient was delayed because the lab did not send the crown in time. Well, I'm so frustrated because I only had this day off. You know what? I heard you. I did notice that you normally book on a Tuesday in the afternoon. I am able to move something around with the doctor's schedule to accommodate you on that same day and time. Will that work? Making sure that you're being proactive in measures that match the patient's desired needs and response. And really, it's not about a policy. It's not about a lecture. Many times I will hear the office say, well, that's just our policy. Or, Dr. Nick really doesn't like that, so we can't do that. And I'll be like, maybe Dr. Nick said that in huddle, but I don't think he wants the patient to know that. What I think you need to say is, thank you for this information. Let me investigate that and get back to you with a timely response. Collect your information. And I had a great boss tell me once, and within 24 hours, the way you respond looks drastically different than the way you would respond in the instance or moment of it happening. There is nothing wrong with letting them know it's going to take me 24 hours to investigate this claim and respond back to you, but I promise you, I will get you the answers that you need. So just be aware of those things. So each step, it sounds like, and we'll share this presentation so you have access to this, but some examples of what you might hear and see about someone being angry calling in and how we de-escalate that conversation. Again, communication is everything, and the way that the patient feels in that instance is about giving value and credibility to the clinic that you are knowledgeable enough to be in pursuit of the right outcome for them. And you're not about proving a policy or again saying to them, well, your insurance just didn't get it right. And that's between you and your insurance carrier. No, it's not. It's between all of you because you also received the card. So you have to be able to follow up on that. So the 30-day commitment that I really want to leave you with is changing one phrase, one behavior, one metric. And really the outcome of all of this is the metric that I see time and time again improve is the PPV, the production per visit. And the reason why it improves is because when the patient trusts you, when they know you and they have felt valued, they lean into what it is you have determined is the best outcome for their oral health. They lean out completely, and the value of the visit diminishes completely when they feel that they are not a priority. They're a number. You called to them from the barn door. Because what happens next is they are thinking and equating everything with money, that you're just looking for more money from them and that you are a number. And it happens every day. So 5 questions to sit with before you leave with me today. If you secretly shopped your own practice today, calling in as a new patient, what would you hear? What would you feel? Would you feel valued? Would someone sound rushed when they called you on the phone? Which of the 5 touch points, the first contact, the arrival, the handoff, all of those, is your practice the strongest at? I think you could tell me right now if you thought about that, where it's the strongest. And many times where I see it's the strongest is when they get seated back in the chair and the doctor walks in. I have seen time and time again doctors that are greater communicators than I ever thought that they could be, because I believe that, you know, you as dentists have evaluated that that is not always your strong suit, and you've worked extra hard to connect with the patient because you know it determines the outcome of treatment. So I would say the one that needs the most attention is most definitely in every instance for me has been the front desk. It's the receiving end where they become so tactically driven and checking off lists that they kind of forgot why they came to work in the first place. And in fact, I've interviewed team members who have said to me, well, I mean, I clocked in today. What else do you want me to do? And I said, you know, maybe provide a standard of care. That would be a thought. And truly in that, we have gone from Stu, an A+ employee, to a D- in many clinics, not because we've hired incorrectly, but because the hiring pool is so deficient of the A+ employee. So I would challenge that the hospitality people that have left, you know, from a hotel would be a great hire for your front desk, because they understand how to balance tactics with empathy and hospitality driven care. What exact words is the front desk using when they answer the phone? It's now time to rewrite that guide and change the language and talk to your team about it. Talk to them about that method that I shared, the 5 seconds of just the quick breath, right? Quick breath, smile. Have you ever like recorded yourself on the phone smiling and talking versus no smile and talking? You actually sound happy. Isn't that crazy? So that's the challenge, right? Is to smile even when you pick up that phone, because the smile exudes that same level of hospitality through the phone to the patient, and they feel it. What is one behavior in your practice right now that reflects that Crown standard that we established in partnership with the Crown Council? What is one behavior? And what is one that does not? And I recommend in every instance of the questions that I'm asking you that you always think of that one positive first, and then how you're going to bring it into the layers of the other aspects of your clinic, because you're doing things right. There's just a few things that are keeping you off kilter or creating those negative reviews that are due to take a look at. And then the last one is, I want you to think about the last patient who left without returning. What do you think their experience felt like at every touch point? I'm not talking about the patient that just left and they were angry about their bill. I'm talking about the patient's entire continuum of care. And too frequently we become cause effect in dentistry, and we think about the patient who left and we're like, oh, well, they were mad about their bill. Okay, well, yeah, that's probably really true, because they posted it all over Google, and then it was on Yelp and every other channel they could find. But let's go back and think about that whole continuum of care, every touch point before they left the clinic that did not make them a raving fan. It wasn't just that the bill wasn't explained to them. It was that that patient was moved twice in the schedule when you look back. I like to go back and actually click and look at the history of the visit, and I can see that they were moved, or I can see that the communication and the reach out was disconnected with the patient. It was, you know, stale and not engaging. I listened to the call of when the patient was received in, and sure enough, they're shouting in the background, what was the CDT code for the comp? Like, that patient had that whole experience. So yes, when the bill was not correctly explained to them, they did respond with a very negative review, but there were a lot of things that led to that. So this is really what I want to leave you with today, give you this challenge and just say, Stu, like for me, what Crown Council represents, what you preach and teach every day, this for me is just an extension of that. And as I told you, this has been a life passion to get practices back on track with the standard of care and really looking at things that you may have set and forget. And, going back and saying, does this actually communicate that we care about the patient? And if it doesn't, how do we change that?
Yeah, I love that. And, for years, I've participated in Crown Council humanitarian trips.
Yep.
I'm not a doctor. I don't speak Spanish. And there's this interesting dynamic that takes place where I'm like, hey, let's get through as many patients as we can. Let's see as many Dominican people as we can. Let's get this. And our incredible team leader is always like, listen, as much as you want to think that we are here to treat teeth, we are here to treat people, to make them feel that they're loved, that they're cared about, that someone came here to who's concerned about them. And I'm like, that same standard of care should transfer to our own practices that like your dad said, Cassie, is like there's a person attached there's a person attached to this tooth. And it's like, hey, if anything doesn't feel right about what I'm doing, I'm concerned about you as a person.
Yeah.
And I think that as the standard of care is an incredible place to start is what actions are we doing, like you said, that don't relate to that. I hate to use medicine as a bad example, but everything that like the medical offices that I go to are doing is like the worst example
It is.
of caring for people's true health and needs. So
Yeah.
this is so fun. I was absolutely I just love I was sitting here thinking about my own doctor and my own experience at my dentist and so many just the fun interactions that I have with Dr. Hammond and his practice. So thank you for being here today. Grateful for you. Anything else, Cassie, that we missed, like follow up or things that Crown Council doctors could do? I know that Curve sponsored us today. I'll leave information for Curve, our great resource partner, to connect with them. Anything else in conclusion?
I would just say make sure that whatever you turn on in terms of AI integration or even migration to Curve does a great job of this. Make sure that those touch points with the patient are saved in one central place. There is nothing better than being able to see the history of communication within the patient chart because it's not fragmented. And many times right now, I see doctors signing on for additional ancillary vendor opportunities where there's 3 or 4 logins before you can find out, oh, I guess we did send you a bill and this is what it looked like. Just make sure it's centrally located, whether it's Curve or something else. Curve does a great job of it in terms of communication integration, but those pieces actually are what make you look professional to the patient instead of, I'm not sure how we sent that to you, or I don't see where we spoke to you about that. Let me log in over here. And really that disconnect of who communicated can be a very big problem. And again, I've even heard in offices where they'll put their hand over the receiver and go, did anyone call Mr. Smith? And I'm like, oh, don't do it. Don't put him on, the hand over the mouth. They still heard you, the hand over the receiver. So just integrate the communication so that every time you speak to the patient, everyone has awareness around what was said.
Cool. Thank you, Cassie. Yeah. It was great to be with you. If you only listened to this, if you're listening to the audio recording, Cassie had a great slide deck, a lot of fun information that you actually, there were parts on some of your slides where I was like, we didn't read that part. We got to go back. We got to go back. So very good. If you missed the slides, definitely watch this. So thank you, Cassie.
Great. Of course. Thank you so much.
Bye.